What if you only had two small pots on your balcony, but you could still grow a whole roof full of clean, straight cucumbers hanging right above your head? Most people think growing cucumbers means needing a big garden, or at least one large container that takes up half their body. The vines spread everywhere, the fruit ends up lying on the ground getting dirty, and before long, you're dealing with yellow leaves, fewer flowers, and fruit that just doesn't look or taste great. But what if there was a smarter way? What if you could use just two regular pots, place them a short distance apart, and build a simple A-frame trellis right in the middle? The cucumbers climb up from both sides, meet at the top, and then hang down underneath like they're growing under their own little roof. The fruit stays clean, grows straighter, and becomes much easier to pick without bending down or searching through leaves. That's exactly what this method gives you. In this video, I'm going to show you how to set this up using two small pots and a basic A-frame. You'll learn the exact steps to build the trellis, how to plant so the vines climb from both directions, and the simple daily care routine that keeps everything healthy. I'll also share the most common mistakes people make with container cucumbers and how to avoid them, especially when it comes to watering, pruning, and feeding at the right time. By the end, you'll see why this two-pot A-frame setup is one of the best space-saving solutions for anyone who wants fresh cucumbers without a big yard. Let's start with why this method works so well when space is limited. Now that you understand why this two-pot A-frame method works so well in small spaces, let's get into exactly how to build it. You don't need fancy materials or advanced tools. Most people already have what they need or can find it easily at a local garden center or hardware store. Start with two pots of the same size. For cucumbers, I recommend pots that are at least 12 to 14 inches wide and deep. This gives the roots enough room to grow strong without drying out too fast. Place the two pots about 3 to 4 feet apart, depending on how wide you want your A-frame to be. The wider the gap, the taller and wider your trellis can become. Next, you'll need to build the A-frame itself. You can use wooden stakes, bamboo poles, or even PVC pipes. The simplest version uses 4 long stakes or poles. Take 2 poles and cross them at the top to form an A shape on one side. Do the same on the other side. Then connect the 2 A shapes with a horizontal pole across the top. This creates a stable frame that the cucumbers can climb. Once your A-frame is standing between the 2 pots, it's time to plant. Choose a cucumber variety that does well in containers and likes to climb. Varieties like Marketmore, Straight 8, or any vining type work great. Plant 1 or 2 cucumber seedlings in each pot, close to the side facing the trellis. Here's the key part that makes this setup different. Guide the vines from both pots to climb up their nearest side of the A-frame. As they grow, gently tie or weave the vines onto the frame so they keep moving upward. Over time, the 2 sides will meet at the top and start hanging down underneath the frame. That's when you get that beautiful cucumber roof effect. One thing that helps a lot at this stage is adding a layer of straw or mulch around the base of each plant right after planting. This keeps the soil moist longer and prevents the fruit from touching wet soil later on. This whole setup process usually takes less than an hour once you have the materials. And the good news is, it doesn't take up much more space than 2 pots sitting side by side. In the next part, I'll show you the daily care routine that keeps your cucumbers healthy and productive once they start climbing. Once your cucumbers are planted and starting to climb the A-frame, the daily care you give them makes a huge difference in how many clean, healthy fruits you'll actually get to harvest. Cucumbers are thirsty plants. They grow fast and produce a lot of fruit, which means they need consistent moisture. The best time to water is in the morning. Watering early in the day gives the plants time to absorb the moisture before the heat of the afternoon. It also helps prevent fungal problems that can happen when leaves stay wet overnight. Try to water at the base of the plants rather than from above, so the leaves stay as dry as possible. One of the simplest and most effective things you can do is add a layer of straw or organic mulch around the base of each plant. This does 2 important jobs. First, it helps the soil hold moisture longer, so you don't have to water as often. Second, it creates a clean barrier between the developing cucumbers and the soil. When fruit hangs down and touches bare soil, it often gets dirty or starts to rot. With mulch in place, your hanging cucumbers stay much cleaner. Another important habit is regular pruning. As the vines grow, you'll notice some leaves turning yellow or touching the ground. These leaves are not helping the plant much and can actually cause problems. Yellow leaves can attract pests or spread disease. Leaves that drag on the ground stay wet longer and become entry points for rot. Take a few minutes every few days to gently remove any yellow or damaged leaves and trim back any leaves that are resting on the soil or mulch. This keeps airflow moving around the plant and helps the energy go toward growing fruit instead of maintaining unnecessary leaves. These three habits, morning watering, mulching, and light pruning, don't take much time, but they prevent most of the common issues people face when growing cucumbers in containers. When you stay consistent with them, your plants stay healthier and your fruit comes out cleaner and straighter. In the next section, I'll show you the right way and the right time to feed your cucumbers so they produce even more high-quality fruit. Even if you water and prune regularly, there's one more important step that can make a real difference in your harvest: feeding your cucumbers at the right time. Cucumbers are heavy feeders, especially when they start producing flowers and fruit. The key moment is when you first see female flowers appearing on the vines. Female flowers are the ones that will turn into cucumbers. They have a small fruit already forming behind the flower. When you notice these starting to show up, that's the best time to give your plants a boost. At this stage, I like to use a combination of compost tea and a potassium-rich fertilizer. Compost tea provides gentle, balanced nutrients and beneficial microbes that help the plant absorb what it needs. The potassium helps the plant focus energy on fruit development rather than just growing more leaves. You can apply this about once every 10 to 14 days while the plants are actively flowering and fruiting. Always water the soil first before applying liquid fertilizer, and avoid getting it on the leaves if possible. Of course, even with good care, problems can still come up. Here are some of the most common issues and how to handle them. If you see a lot of yellow leaves, it could be from inconsistent watering, lack of nutrients, or simply old leaves at the bottom of the plant. Remove the yellow leaves and check your watering routine. If the problem continues, a light feeding with compost tea often helps. If your cucumbers are coming out short, fat, or curved instead of straight, it's usually a sign of inconsistent moisture or poor pollination. Try to keep the soil evenly moist, not soaking wet, but never completely dry. You can also gently shake the vines in the morning to help with pollination. Another common problem is flowers dropping off without producing fruit. This often happens when the plant is stressed from heat, lack of water, or not enough nutrients. Consistent morning watering and feeding at the right time usually solves this. The good news is that most of these issues are easy to fix once you know what to look for. Staying on top of watering, mulching, light pruning, and timely feeding will prevent the majority of problems before they get serious. When you combine all of these steps, here's what you can expect from your two-pot A-frame setup. When you follow these steps, building the simple A-frame between two pots, guiding the vines from both sides, watering consistently in the morning, mulching, pruning, and feeding at the right time, you end up with something really satisfying. Instead of cucumbers lying on the ground, getting dirty and hard to find, you get fruit hanging cleanly underneath the trellis. They grow straighter because they're not resting on soil. They stay cleaner because they're off the ground, and they're much easier to harvest. You can just reach up and pick them without bending over or moving leaves around. The transformation is pretty clear. In the beginning, many people struggle with cucumbers spreading everywhere, fruit touching wet soil, and plants that look messy. After switching to this two-pot A-frame method, the same small space now produces cleaner fruit in a much more organized and attractive way. The plants take up less room, the fruit is easier to manage, and the whole setup actually looks nice on a balcony or patio. What I like most about this method is how practical it is. You don't need a big backyard or expensive equipment. You just need two pots, some basic materials for the frame, and a little consistent care. It proves that even with limited space, you can still grow fresh, good quality vegetables at home. If you've been thinking about growing cucumbers, but felt like you didn't have enough room, this approach is worth trying. It's simple enough for beginners, but effective enough to give you a real harvest you can be proud of. If you found this helpful, give the video a thumbs up And let me know in the comments if you've tried growing cucumbers in small spaces before. And if you want to see more practical ways to grow food in limited areas, consider subscribing so you don't miss the next video. Thanks for watching and happy growing.